Welcome back, family, to the South Florida Recruiting Report. Marcus Benjamin here representing for Rivals.com, South Florida Recruiting Reporter. And you know what it is. We're here to talk a little recruiting here on the podcast. And believe it or not, it's the end of the regular season in high school football. So we're actually coming to an end here, or it's like the beginning of the end, as you could say, as players prepare for the state championships here in Florida. We want to know who are going to be those big time players to look out for during the playoffs. Um, and to discuss it all, I've got Andy Villamarzo from Rivals High School. He's a national reporter, reports for the entire country when it comes to high school football and other sports. I don't really know how he does it. um, but we're going to talk Florida here on the pod. Thanks for joining me, Andy.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus. Thank you for having me on once again.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I figured you'd be the right person to bring on here to discuss the top players here in the state. There's been a lot of great performers, and we'll get to that in a second. But you wrote a story about the FHSAA, who, I don't know, it seems like they like to be in the news these days, like every other week or definitely every month. There's some kind of news brewing from the FHSAA, and that's the Florida High School Athletic Association. And they reclassified the classes once again, like that. It seems like this happens every year. You wrote a story about it on Rivals. So tell me your opinion on this reclass or the taking away of one class and what it really means.
Well, in my opinion, I don't know if it changes a whole lot outside of kind of what I feel like the headline that I had for the story, I mean, it's really like they're just eliminating one class and that's about it. I don't think really much else changed, but the whole hoopla going into Monday's morning's meeting between the board of directors over in Gainesville, which is 13 people, is the initial proposal that was kind of given out by executive director Craig Damon last week in a kind of more of an informational meeting with the board of directors and kind of giving them an idea of what he's proposing, which that is what drew a lot of interest heading into the Monday meeting, because what he was proposing was, eliminating two classifications. He was looking to have it 1A through 5A with a rural class. He was looking at having a district tournament when it came to, at the end of your regular season. So instead of you playing like a 10 game schedule, it was going to be an 8 game schedule, kind of with a 2 week buffer there where you leave that open in case either you're playing in the district tournament in a district semifinal or district championship. But the caveat there was only the top four teams in each district would get those 2 games that would fill out their 10 game season. Now, if you were a team outside of that top four in your district, I mean, to me, essentially, you're kind of left out in the cold with trying to figure out how to fill the last 2 games of your schedule, which you know as well as I do. For these players, coaches trying to help the players get film, those 2 games are vital, with trying to just get them as much on field tape as possible. And not to mention logistics when you're talking about financially, are those 2 home games you're losing out on? Are you losing out on just one home game that you may lose out on a rival or somebody that you get a good gate against, and now you're having to kind of table that game for a potential shot at the district tournament at the end of the season. And if you don't get that, then you're running around with your head cut off as a head coach trying to schedule 2 games at the end of the season. And I think with everything that is on their plate already, I think the last thing they want to do is call around a bunch of teams, and try to figure out how to play two more games. So
Right.
that was kind of I think everybody was rushing to, to Twitter or X, whatever you call it. And they were voicing their opinions saying this is, from what I perceived and kind of commented on even myself, just saying it seems a little short-sighted. It seems like it wasn't kind of well thought out. I mean, and I'm not saying they didn't kind of get some opinions, but I don't know if the opinions were that overall of the state more so than maybe like a handful of people that they might have talked to. So I think the overall takeaway from it was there was a lot kind of going into the meeting, but what ended up being the outcome was just an elimination of one class. And what you've seen the previous two seasons is, last year and then the current one now, it's going to remain the same. It's just going to be the elimination of Class 7A, and everything's going to be the same. And the requiring of district games, because that was another concern within his proposal, was he wasn't going to require teams to actually play games within the district. Like you weren't going to be forced to play teams that were in your district, which something he had mentioned many times was giving autonomy to the teams to be able to, go out and schedule whoever, because obviously you do have teams like the powerhouse teams that would like to, go out and schedule whoever they want instead of kind of being forced to play, some of the teams they know they're just going to have kind of an easier time with. And I could understand that, but I do believe there's probably for one team that says they don't have problems scheduling games and they're a powerhouse. I think there's probably like 10 more teams that'll tell you they have a ton of issues trying to schedule games, because I don't
Yeah.
think teams are raising their hands to play St. Thomas Aquinas, Chaminade, Madonna, Venice, Lakeland, so on and so forth. So that was my takeaway from it.
Yeah, good stuff. It almost feels like if one of these lower schools play like a St. Thomas or a Chaminade like that, I feel like it almost has to be where how in college football the bigger team pays for that smaller school just to play them. I feel like it might come to that. That's what it kind of feels like for me. And I think for most people when they see this news, at least for people down here in South Florida, you want to make sure that the classes are competitive, because South Florida usually kind of dominates, every year. I mean, they maybe have fallen off maybe a little bit past couple of years, but for the most part, South Florida teams usually dominate, especially in the championship game. I think people really just kind of want to know, is it going to be competitive now, like with this reclassification?
I mean, I think it's going to be, well, what could be the X factor in making the classifications more competitive is um, the open division that's set to take off next year for 2026, 2027. And that open division is going to take the top 8 teams in the state. Now, this is based off of the FHSA rankings, which I haven't been really too fond of, because I think that is also missing the mark. And just examples is and they have risen throughout the year, and they're my probably most uh, extreme example, or just the one that to me is most glaring is St. Thomas Aquinas. I at one point in the season they were ranked 83rd in the state, which I don't think I could name 3 teams better than St. Thomas Aquinas. Nonetheless,
Right.
82. So I think they've, based on kind of their latest rankings, I think St. Thomas has made some headway inside the top 25. I find it kind of comical to even have to talk about them like that, because it's like they should be,
Right.
they're probably 1 or 2. But the fact that I'm looking at the most recent rankings right now that the FHSA has. They have St. Thomas at number 29, so they're squeezed in between Blountstown, which is I'm pretty sure a rural team, and
Yeah.
Bradford, which is a Class 2A team. Um, yeah, it's almost unexplainable exactly what they're looking for, because the FHSA rankings has to everyone been kind of like a secret formula that no one knows exactly what goes into it. Everyone's guessing because they think like the strength of schedule is very important, but then early in the season it was really your record. Like if you were undefeated, no matter who you played, you could have played 4 or 5 teams that probably are not perennially great or very good, but it seemed like the computer respected that. Like it respected your record. So, and St. Thomas had the one loss at the beginning against Mater Dei, and I think the computer doesn't recognize that Mater Dei is a national powerhouse for whatever reason. So that hurt St. Thomas. Also, like it doesn't recognize the NFL Academy win. Like that's not something it factors in. To me, like I know, a lot of people know that
Mm.
NFL Academy has a lot of good, a lot of good players within that high school age range over in England. I mean, I think I was explaining it to somebody. They were asking me like, "What is the NFL Academy? Like, what is this team? Is it the NFL's like the kids of the players or something?" I'm like, "No, it's a developmental program over in Great Britain that produces they develop the best players from other countries outside of the United States. So they're taking the best out of Canada and England and Germany and all these countries. They have kids. Believe it or not, there's football that is played outside of the United States. Yes, and there's kids that are looking to get college scholarships to play in the United States, but in order to do so, they got to be on a football team that's recognized and plays against competition, and that is the NFL Academy. And I think people saw Edgewater beat up on NFL Academy earlier in the year, so I think St. Thomas got a lot of flack for winning by 3 overseas. But I'm kind
Mm.
of like, how many teams can pack up and leave their high school, travel across the Atlantic Ocean, practice in a whole nother country, and then play not only at a stadium, they're playing at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium,
Yeah.
and so I think there's a lot that goes into that one, but I just think the Open Division hopefully will, it'll take away some of the teams that we would look at as the state championship contenders or the teams that we would think are going to win it, and I think it'll potentially. I'm just going to say potentially because we'll see how this all shakes out, but I think it'll potentially open the door to new state champions. I think we might see some teams that haven't really had a chance in the past, kind of like what Metro Suburban was was kind of doing. Like you saw some
Yeah.
new teams coming to the mix that won titles that we hadn't seen win titles, no, either a long time or never.
Yeah.
So I think that could happen again with the kind of this new model, paired with the open division.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. But now that we're talking playoffs, playoffs will be starting not this weekend, but the following weekend. Man, this football season has been flying by for me. I don't know how it is for you, but it's like I wake up and it's like Friday night, like and after going to sleep from a Friday night game. That's how it feels. So a lot of great teams, of course. When you look at the composite rankings, you see Chaminade and St. Thomas Aquinas ranked in the top 25 this week. Obviously, they're favorites to win state championships again. I mean, death taxes and Chaminade and St. Thomas winning state championships is what it feels like. But when it comes to players that are going to make big plays, who do you think is really going to make a name for themselves like Malachi Tony did last year, where he, took over at quarterback when Diabell was hurt and went on this amazing run for another state championship for American Heritage? Who do you think can make that type of run in the playoffs this season?
Somebody I think who can make a name for himself that I don't think has garnered a ton of attention. You might have seen him in the preseason, but a kid I think that has been playing really well throughout the season, and his stock has gone up in recruiting. I think with it is Cardinal Mooney's quarterback, Davin Davidson. He played against St. Thomas in the preseason. From all accounts and some of the film I watched, I mean, he played fairly well. That was kind of a first look at him, like against a kind of top tier program. He had played back in the spring against like Clearwater and Mitchell. Those are more Tampa Bay area teams, but he kind of lit it up then. And I got kind of a sneak peek at him in back in the spring. I went to a practice over at Cardinal Mooney, and obviously, Elijah Golden's the one that everybody. If you're going there, you're probably wanting to see him and Chemistry Young. I mean, there's kids over there that you're like, but he wasn't somebody that was like on that proverbial radar when I went to go see them. But when I get a first glance at him, I mean, this kid has to be easily like 6'5", 6'6", probably like 200 pounds or maybe over that, and I mean he's just throwing lasers everywhere, and I'm like, who is this kid? Like, because I knew of the other quarterback they had because he helped them win a state championship in 2023, Devin Mergery, and he's a fine quarterback himself. But this other kid, I was just like, he's got the physical traits that I think I would think anybody as a college coach probably would just fall in love with. The height, the arm. I mean, he's mobile for the position at his height, because usually you're not finding 6'6", 210-pound quarterbacks that can really like move. But yeah, I feel like this regular season has kind of validated everything I saw in that practice, and then some of the film I had gone to watch, and then hearing and seeing about the Aquinas preseason game. He's played very well and kind of come into his own, and I think kind of jumping into some state championship stuff. I find Cardinal Mooney as a favorite to win Class 2A, and I think that he would be the guy that is going to kind of get them there, because they have obviously the pieces on defense. I think those are things that we know of. But Davidson, I think, is somebody that he's going to make a name for himself, to where people are going to be like, they're going to be like I was when I went to that practice. They're going to watch him and be like, who the heck is this kid? Like, because I've mentioned him to some people, and they're like, I've never heard of him. And I'm kind of like, well, I think you're going to get to know who he is. I mean, watch the playoffs. I think they'll probably end up going against Bowls, I would imagine. I mean, I guess can't ever leave Coco completely out of it, but I think Mooney's that team that has a player that definitely could definitely be making the name for himself in the playoffs here.
Yeah, like he's showing that he has a really strong throwing motion. Very intentional with where he wants to throw the football, and he's mobile. He can step up. Cardinal Mooney, definitely a team that I think will win the state championship as well, in their class. Hey Andy, sorry about that. Little technical difficulties on my end. The Wi-Fi looks like it kind of just went out on me.
Oh
But
no.
I'm on my hotspot here, so I just wanted to kind of just finish my point on Davidson. Just a great talent. I do think
Yeah.
Cardinal Mooney definitely will go to states this year and win it, and it definitely will be because of Davidson. Really outstanding talent out of Sarasota, Florida. So for me, I think the player to kind of watch here in the playoffs, I think is Samarian Wingo, the Miami commit for me. He's just an outstanding talent. I feel like St. Augustine will have a say in the state championships as well. He has a really great catch radius, can also create after the catch, seems to just kind of catch everything in his way. And he's a playmaker for sure. He's a playmaker who can basically kind of take over a game. So I expect him to kind of take over a game, especially in those early rounds for St. Augustine. But in that class, so who will they be challenged by, do you think?
Well, in Class 4A, you obviously you got the very team that Malachi Tony led to the state championship in that final where he made the cameo at quarterback. So you got American Heritage. Orlando Jones, obviously, Darion Coleman and Larry Miles and the crew. They have not forgotten about what happened at Pitbull Stadium, and I gotta imagine it's just burning inside of them that they want to get back. They want to, they were my preseason prediction. I think a lot of people when they saw it were kind of like, "Oh wow, like you don't have American heritage going back." But with everything that has happened there, I mean, and I don't think it's out of the realm that they could repeat. Obviously having a quarterback like Leon Strotter there. You got Jamar Denson. You just have a plethora of weapons at the skill position. I don't think it's not feasible that they couldn't have a rematch with Jones. And getting to see St. Augustine last week against Mandarin on Thursday night. I mean, yeah,
Right.
I could definitely agree with you that Wingo is somebody, whether he's catching a hitch pass and, breaking tackles and getting upfield, or, coming across the middle on a crossing pattern or a dig or he's taking his defender in a man-to-man situation, deep. I mean, he showed kind of the kind of the repertoire when it comes to what he can do as a wide receiver and kind of giving Miami Hurricanes fans I think a little kind of preview of what to possibly expect when he goes down to South Florida after his high school playing days. But yeah, I like what St. Augustine does on offense with them. What losing the game, against Mandarin, I think that's a really, that's a quality team, and I think that Wingo could definitely be somebody that kind of explodes on the scene in the playoffs. I think he would be a candidate when you look at kind of the way he's played throughout the year. He's had to been one of the top 10 receivers in the state.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think he has a chance to really kind of show his worth. If I'm, of any of these opposing teams, I definitely would zero in on Wingo to make sure that he doesn't beat you, but he could definitely beat a team and carry St. Augustine on his back to possibly a state title. We'll see how all of that shakes out. We running a little long here, so I do want to just kind of ask you in each class, Andy, you're frozen on the screen here for me, by the way. So still having a little technical issues, but I hear you okay. Who do you think wins states on in every class here? We'll start with I guess rural first.
Well, I'm gonna go with the team that won it last year, Madison County. I know that's probably like a kind of a bailout, like, oh, you're just gonna kind of lean into what happened last year, but I think it's for good reason. Madison County has really played a really tough schedule this year. They kind of had to because they don't have a lot of required games, and they were one of the teams that was at the FHSA meeting on Monday that was advocating for required district games because they've had to travel, I mean, to Kingdom Come just to play a 10-game schedule. They've gone and played DeLand, Apopka, Lecanto. I mean, they've kind of gone all over the place just to fill their schedule. And maybe I name those schools, and you think, well, maybe that's what kind of drive is that for them? Well, none of them are easy. When you look at Madison, going to like a place like DeLand, that's easy. I would say like 3 hours. And then the other couple schools, Apopka would be the same. Lecanto's quite a haul for them just to go down probably US 19, which is for me like a daily thing, and I can't imagine as a football team trying to travel in that all the way from almost the Florida Georgia line to get down to my kind of closer to my area in rush hour. So it's got to be a pain in the butt. So yeah, I would go with Madison County. As we go up the classifications 1A and up, Chaminade, like you said, I think that requires I know people, the argument, would probably be like, well, what about Cardinal Newman? What about Clearwater Central Catholic? I mean, I'm also hearing people at St. Petersburg Catholic, because they're 10-0. They feel like they got a shot.
Our guy Larry Bluestein,
Oh,
who you do an amazing impression of, by the way, says that True North. He's really high on True North, and he feels like True North will challenge in 1A. Your thoughts?
I mean, I did hear Larry. Larry did tell me that. I gotta say, he was in my ear over the weekend saying, True North, they're gonna get people problems. I'm telling you, they're gonna do it. They got guys. So yeah, I can't. I'm not fully like away from that, but to me, to what did Ric Flair always say? To beat the man, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And if you're gonna be that in 1A, you need to beat Chaminade. And I mean, all can be talked about. I know Miami Edison was one of those teams in the preseason. Why not Edison? I mean, why not anybody else, right? Like, we're tired of seeing the same old thing. But I mean, for me, I gotta see it. Like, I can't just like see stuff on paper and go, okay, I'm gonna ride with you. Like, I've been waiting for Clearwater Central Catholic to make it like just a game with them at the end. And last year kind of teased me for like a quarter and a half, like it might be a close game. But then you looked at the final score and you're like, same old stuff. So I don't know. Until proven otherwise, I think they cruise. I don't think they have any problems. They don't have a guy named Jeremiah Smith. I mean, who's that guy? But like, they still got some pretty doggone good players. I mean, Derek Cooper. I mean, Malik Leonard. Has been just phenomenal as a freshman. I mean, I don't think you could play any better than he's playing right now at the position. You got a lot of good ball players on that side of the
Jason,
ball.
yeah, Jason Lopez to
Yeah.
me, I think continues to show that he could probably challenge for a starting role as soon as next season for Florida State. I think he is that of a talent. He just knows how to contort his body when the ball is in the air to catch it, and then he gives you that yak, Andy. Like he gives you, those extra yards that you need to get a first down or to get in the red zone, that type of thing. I think he single handedly kind of ignited Chaminade against St. Thomas. Unfortunately, it was on in a losing effort, but I don't even think that game is even close without Jason Lopez.
Yeah, he's been somebody I think that I would probably, in my own mind, think he projects as kind of like that Restrepo type of receiver, like in the slot. Like he's going to do a lot of
Sure.
his work there, and he's going to be somebody that he's just finding open space, and then once he gets it, he's not looking to just get down. He's looking to absorb contact and then be able to kind of get that yak like you said. So yeah, I think what he's done this season for them, amongst that crowd of talent at the receiver position, I think that he's somebody that without a doubt, I think he has really kind of stood out from the beginning of the season. Even that game against St. Francis, he made several plays. So
Yeah.
you can almost pull positives from every game with him and just say, regardless, win, lose. I mean, against two high quality opponents, albeit kind of you start the season with the loss, you end it the regular season with the loss, but both of those games against nationally ranked teams, he's been somebody that's been a bright spot.
Absolutely. So what about 2A?
2A, I'm gonna go with what I kind of aforementioned with Cardinal Mooney. I just feel like they have the pieces. I seen them in the spring, really kind of I think reinforced that to me. I did like Gadsden County at that time back in the spring, but they got hit with a ton of sanctions. Their head coach ended up leaving for a college job. I mean, the wheels kind of fell off that, and they're banned from the postseason. So, their season is done. They can't compete for a state title. Coco, who won it last year, I think we all kind of know what they lost with Brady Hart and Javon Boggs.
Yeah.
I mean, you lost one of the most prolific wide receiver quarterback duos in the state. So I felt like they were going to be hard pressed to really follow that up. And Bowles, I think is gonna, they're definitely gonna challenge them. They're gonna be there. You got Naeem Burrows and Xavier Edwards, the kid who's really blown up. Ashton Guio, there obviously as a defensive tackle, dynamo. I mean, they got some pieces, so I would not be surprised if the two teams met. I think that would be just a dynamite final. So let's, I guess, cross our fingers and hope that's what we get to see, because then you're going to see a whole heck of a lot of talent on the field all at one time.
Yeah.
And then
Absolutely.
moving up to 3A,
Mhm.
I mean, I think it's no Teddy, no problem for Miami Northwestern. I think they're going to, Miami Central is the biggest threat to Northwestern repeating. I'm going to keep believing in that. I know people probably over in Jacksonville at Rains High School are like, come on, Andy, we're going to be back and we're not losing 41-0. We're going to compete with them. I would love to believe that, but I think it kind of just makes me. I do a double take. Like I think about this and I go, you guys didn't play Miami Central at the beginning of the season for whatever issues there was, and I just don't know who they've exactly played that has made this schedule difficult at all for them. I mean, I think the toughest team they played was Lake Mary, which I'm not saying Lake Mary's not a good team. I don't think Lake Mary's the team that went to the 7A state title game last year, so I think it's a little bit different of a team. And I don't know. I just believe Northwestern's gonna win that again, unless if Miami Central, unless Coach Gibson over there finds a way to kind of pull off that, it'd be a minor upset, because I wouldn't be surprised if Central pulled it off, just because they did kind of show the
That was
first time around. They're not far off from Northwestern.
Yeah,
4A.
I agree with you about Northwestern. And when you talk about players that will probably make a significant impact in the playoffs, you got to look at this wide receiver duo of Calvin Russell and Nick Lanier.
Yeah.
That's kind of pick your poison with those two guys, and Nick Saint is also the third receiver. So I think, with those three guys, it's going to be really, really tough to beat. And Neiman Lawrence, who continues to develop as a quarterback. So, yeah, I agree with you. No Teddy, no problem in another state championship for the Miami Northwestern Bulls.
Yeah, and then go up to 4A. I think it's still going to be Jones. I just got this feeling that Coleman is gonna he's on a mission. Last year he was close, but yeah, I just can't I can't go with American Heritage repeating just because I feel like they just haven't found like that overall chemistry. I know they've played all these good teams really close. Like Edna Carr, they played close with no Diabell, with no Leon Strotter. I mean, they had one of their wide receivers playing quarterback for goodness sakes. So they almost won in New Orleans. Kind of kept it close with Aquinas, or they did keep it close. I mean, they've it's like they're right there, but obviously something's missing. Like they're just not able to beat kind of the teams that are of that higher kind of caliber. So it just seems like, and I'm sure this is just bulletin board material for them. I mean, they're gonna be like, hey, we got it. We got guys who know how to win. They did it last year, but I think
Yeah.
that one's more of a see it to believe it type thing. I think Jones right now, even with a couple losses, they have the Evans and Edgewater. I think that they could go all the way and then and win it. 5A,
Yeah, I think what's missing from that team is really the quarterback. Diabell and Malachi Tony aren't coming out of that tunnel.
yeah,
So I think that's the issue. No disrespect to Leon Strouder at all, who's a state champion in his own right at Miami Northwestern. But I'm just not sure if they're a complete team to get themselves to the state championship. I wouldn't be surprised if they win it though. I think the key for me is if they have the running game. Heritage usually always has a strong running game. Historically, this is a team that will churn out rushing yards on you and just get into the end zone with just sheer power. And I think
yeah,
they're missing out on Jonathan Bueno. Their running back who started off the season strong, really like him a lot. He is expected to come back for the playoffs. If he is, I like Heritage chances. If he doesn't, then it's 50-50 if they win states in back-to-back years.
yeah. And and knowing that piece of information, I mean, to me, we'll see how that all comes together. Just because I was pretty high on that incredible comeback at the beginning of the season. I mean, Bueno had a huge game that night in the Broward County Classic against St. Joseph's Prep. But I wrote something over the weekend. I was monitoring the Hawks out of Pennsylvania, and their season's already over. They ended up losing 5 games. So
Oh wow.
for all the stock that was put into them and how good they are, not to say they're not. They got some guys. Obviously Jed Harrison, son of Marvin Harrison, and Charlie Folk, and they got some other guys. But it's like how high on that pedestal are we putting them? When their seasons, I mean, we're not even close to Thanksgiving, and they're done playing football. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see if American Heritage can kind of. I know Coach Mike Smith is he's done a really good job. Got to win that first one last year. Repeating, as they say, is probably tougher than winning your first. So I think that with the pieces they have, you would like to think they have a shot to at least be back you know in that situation to be able to defend the title. Do they win it all? Is the question marks. But we'll see. Moving into Class 5A, I mean, yeah, I'm not. And Lakeland people have been on me. I mean, they're like hounds on me about me every time I say St. Thomas Aquinas, but I don't know why. They just lost to the First Academy at home, so I'm kind of like, well, I'm pretty sure the First Academy wouldn't beat St. Thomas Aquinas. So, I don't know how we're going to say that Lakeland's going to beat St. Thomas. And I know that's a storied rivalry. The two teams are plenty familiar with each other.
Yeah.
If they do meet again, I don't think they're winning. I mean, I think St. Thomas goes ahead and wins their believe this would be their 18th state championship, like seventh in a row. I think that's
Seventh in a row.
yeah,
Seventh in a row is crazy. just to even fathom that 7 state championships in a row is absolutely insane. St. Thomas continues to roll. I think I agree with you. I think they're definitely a team that's going to win the state title again. In my opinion, they're the best team in the state, not named IMG. I don't know. I think IMG and St. Thomas, that would be a pretty decent game to see who came out on top there. They've been my number one team in South Florida ever since I saw them destroy Columbus. I just feel like they have enough to win the state title. As we saw last week, we see them beat Chaminade. Of course, they've beaten Heritage, and almost beat. Came back to beat Modern Day. The only other team I would say would challenge them in the state would maybe be Northwestern. That would also be another good game to kind of see if that ever happened. I don't think I've ever seen those teams play each other, to be honest with you. In all my years of covering high school football down here in South Florida. So I agree with you. Another state championship for the Raiders.
yeah. I think that's it. And you just made that comment. St. Thomas is that's basically what I would allude to when it comes to those FHSA rankings. I mean, not that IMG is recognized because they're not a team that is in that state series, but I mean, I think St. Thomas is the best team in the state outside of IMG Academy, just because when you look at people ask because there's people from teams that are they're rebuilding to their middle of the road to they're trying to get up to that kind of state championship level. They want to know what's the difference between a team like that versus your everyday kind of just high school football team. And I always say to people the biggest difference is look at that line of scrimmage. I mean, look at the guys that are stepping up to the line. I mean, when you talk about IMG Academy, I mean, it's almost like you better be bringing some weight to the line because I mean they're averaging 330 across, and St. Thomas is very similar. You have a pretty big, stout offensive line that I think Mason Mallory feels pretty good on Friday nights, knowing like for the most part he's gonna, he'll be upright.
Yeah.
He has the ability to run around if he needs to, but I mean, he knows like he's got a pretty good offensive line. So that's the difference with them and some of these other teams that are aspiring to be a state championship level team is they're able to get it done up front, and that's what they're going to lean upon in these playoffs. Now going to Class 6A, we're going to the last two classes. I mean, 6A has been kind of interesting. I'll say these last two classes are not as clear as the others. I feel like the others I can kind of answer and feel pretty good and confident about. These last two, I'm like, man, you want to say West Boca because Dylan Potts and everything he's doing over there. I mean, they just got a nice win over Atlantic. They're only a couple losses. I mean, you're trying not to be too hard on these guys because it's like one comes against Bergen Catholic. They were nationally ranked. I think they got bumped out because they ended up losing to Don Bosco Prep, so they're actually not in the the rankings anymore when it comes to the national composite for rivals. But they're still one of New Jersey's like top teams, and they still have some really they got studs. But I mean, West Boca, I feel like would be the one I would lean to, but I would say let's not be surprised if Armwood wins it all. I think
Yeah.
Armwood has a very talented secondary. Getting to see them against Tampa Bay Tech, I mean, that back end, if you're a team that's deciding you want to throw the ball against Armwood, I think again, because I feel like each one of the kids in that backfield for them, they've got Division I offers. So I think that's kind of just a tough unit to really challenge. I know Kasimi Osceola is another one that people would probably say, what about them? I don't know. I think that West Boca would be the team. I'll give just a little slight edge over Armwood, but I think they got a shot. I really do. Even though their schedule, and I think Coach Evan Davis could agree with me. I mean, Marcus, in their last 5 games, they've only allowed 1 touchdown. I mean, they've
Wow.
shut out 4 of their last 5 opponents, averaging close to 49 points a game. I guess we go to I don't even think they've been pinched. If we had to go to that, term, like they haven't even been pinched in Armwood. So it's been kind of like the last time they played a team, it probably was when they played Tampa Bay Tech. So when I last saw them back in September, early September, that was probably the last time they were actually challenged. So I mean, what do you do with that large, gap of not really playing anybody, and then now you're going to start to get punched back by some of these teams in the playoffs? That's going to be the kind of interesting caveat there. And then we go to Class 7A.
Yeah, just a quick comment on 6A. I
Yeah,
think there's a lot. I think that this is the class for me that I think this is wide open. To be honest, I
yeah,
think I wouldn't be surprised if a team like MacArthur, who I think is really coming on strong, kind of makes a run here. Matter Academy, I know like people are gonna be like Matter Academy, but like yeah, they're a team that won their district, and they're a South Florida team that I think would possibly challenge, um, teams like West Boca and Armwood. But if I had to pick a team, yeah, I'm with you. I think I actually think Armwood would probably beat West Boca just because West Boca's got that strong running game with Miami commit Javion Mallory churning out yards. It seems like he's just getting better and better every week in every aspect of his game when it comes to catching the football and just being explosive and finding the green grass and exploding to the end zone. They don't really have a strong passing game, West Boca. So I don't know if I trust them that much in the playoffs as I would Armwood, but I wouldn't be surprised to see one of these South Florida teams make a run here.
yeah. No, I mean, I think just looking at that classification, it is a little bit more wide open, and that's kind of why it's like it's not as easy to kind of get a read on when you're looking at the teams and everything. You're kind of like, man, you could really fall in love with one scenario and go with that. But I don't think there's one that you're absolutely super confident like going with and saying, okay, this is definitely going to happen. You just kind of entertain that one of them could happen, but there's no way denoting like another one could obviously take the title at the end at Pitbull. 7A is I almost feel like 7A is about as wide open as they come. I kind of like that the highest classification in the state is the most wide open
Yeah.
because everybody, I think, and I was one of those people for sure. I mean, at the beginning of the season, I was like, Venice is going to win it all. They just did it. Obviously, John Peacock has some of those pieces that he's needing at the key positions to be able to pull off another run. I mean, they got kind of that mid-season, or not mid-season, but early season transfer, acquisition of Darion Jones, who was at Chaminade Madonna. He goes to Venice, and I think that's been the absolute difference maker for the Indians is him going there. I mean, what Chaminade didn't need with him, Venice absolutely did because they, offensively against Tampa Bay Tech to open the season, they kind of did next to nothing. But ever since Jones has come over, he's added an element at that quarterback position where they can throw the deep ball to Tyree Mannings. I mean, he's somebody as a sophomore who's just he's blown up. I mean, he's kind of like the Winston Watkins Jr. Because he kind of reminds you of the role that he played last year. Outside of, I don't think Mannings plays any defense, and I'm pretty sure Winnie did. So yeah, I feel like for me, I'm still going to go with my preseason prediction just because I think Venice has those pieces that you would like. You know, Johnny Jones at left tackle, kind of anchoring that offensive line. They got Dorian Jones in the backfield. They got like two or three other guys who can run the ball pretty well as also. Defensively, they've been a lot. You know, Ashari Charles obviously just being a menace off of the edge. I feel like every play I've watched of just like Venice film, when you watch defensively, I mean, it's like he's making the tackle somewhere, somehow. Like he's got a motor that is, I mean, but he's one guy. So that's where I'm kind of like, you would, like to kind of feel like Venice could have some other guys that are going to step up, but I'm going to go with them. But I'm going to preface that by saying you got Vero Beach that has been playing really well. And that is without Champ, wonderful Mons. He has not been playing. He's been out with the injury. So Ephraim White, a wide receiver who, he played quarterback last year for Vero, but I think he was kind of Florida State commit. I mean, I think he's kind of looking at it like, man, I got to do this again. Like I got to play quarterback. He hasn't had to do it in a little bit, but he's been playing really well. He's actually, to me, like a player of the year candidate because he's had to step into that role. And not only has he stepped into that role once again, but he's led them to an undefeated record. And if Mons comes back at some point, I mean, Vero could absolutely win this thing. I don't think there's any reason to not look at them. I think you got a DeLand. DeLand's got a.
So before you go on to DeLand, so Ephraim White is basically the Malachi Tony candidate. That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah. He could absolutely. I mean, he's somebody like, he got put into that role, and I don't, I think he's the ATH. He's the definition of that. I mean, he's like, if you need him to play wide receiver, that's what he's natural. I mean, that's what he's going to go to Florida State and do. But if you need him to play quarterback, he can do that at a high level. Heck, he can play some defense as well. So he's somebody that I think is going to definitely have a major role for Vero in the playoffs. DeLand is another team. Everybody knows of Rick Darlington back in his days at Apopka and winning state championships. And he's at DeLand, and he's been, actually tonight, DeLand plays Spruce Creek over at their place, and I'm going to go over and check that out. I see they got a running back that's really good, 2028 kid, Taj Moore, 4-star kid. So I kind of want to check out what their offense is looking like, and they're a contender in Class 7A. So they got a very viable shot. And then I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't mention programs like West Orange, with AJ Chung at quarterback. He's another sophomore that's been playing. I think he's got 36 touchdown passes, only 2 interceptions all year. He's been playing, he's been balling over in Central Florida. I mean, can I not mention Dave Dunn in Columbus, even with their record the way it is? I feel like
I don't see it this year, Andy. From what I've seen, the fact that True North kind of made them look average, a couple of weeks ago tells me that this is not a team that I think will win a state title. Maybe they'll make a short run in the playoffs, but I think other teams like you mentioned, like Vero, I'm glad you mentioned them, because if Champ Mons does come back, then he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country to me in his class. And if he comes back, and then you already have Ephraim White, who's outstanding, move him back to wide receiver, I think Vero Beach does have a really great chance to win a state title. I think if that team lines up against Columbus, I think Vero wins. So I'm not believing in the Explorers this year.
Well, and then you know what? And I gotta quickly just go back to 6A because a team that just popped into my mind, and I'm gonna say they're gonna have an absolute chance is another South Florida school, Southridge.
Yeah,
Southridge. Yeah, I don't know how they slipped my mind, but they were one of those teams
I don't know how you slipped
that's
my
why.
mind either.
Yeah, they're one of those teams. Yeah, that I think we gotta respect. You know what they're
For
doing,
sure.
and they're gonna be in that mix, no doubt. They got a
They,
shot to. I mean,
they should
they.
have beat Central a couple of weeks ago. They were like a couple of plays away. It was a really crazy ending to that game. Southreach like kind of takes the lead, but then they kick it. They do an onside kick, which was kind of odd. And then Central had a short field. They get to the goal line, and they fumbled. It seemed like a clear recovery by Southridge. The refs didn't see it that way. Central ends up scoring, so definitely just a couple of plays away from being Central. So Southridge definitely a high caliber team that can win states as well for 6A.
Yeah, and when we talk about West Boca Raton, I mean, last year they came within 3 points of beating the eventual state champs. So if you're, I kind of mentioned Jones as a team that's probably like stewing over what happened last year. I mean, if they're stewing over it, I'm sure Southridge is. They're probably obsessed with the fact that they want another shot at West Boca Raton because they probably think we could get them this time. Like
Yeah,
we got a team that is just as capable as last year's, and we were only a field goal away from being tying them up and maybe going to like overtime. So yeah, they're gonna absolutely be in that mix of teams that could win 6A.
for sure, for sure. I like James Perrone, the USF commit, the quarterback. He's a really good talent. Trey Proctor, 2027 tight end. I think he's a player who continues to show that he could be a big time player on high school and the college football level. Um, Cameron Wilson, the Syracuse commit, D end is a terror coming off the edge. So I think Southridge, definitely has a chance to bring us a state title home to South Florida in 6A.
Absolutely, and then yeah, those are the teams that I think are going to be the teams that are going to win it all. Come December when we all kind of gather together at one place over at Pitbull Stadium, and maybe Pitbull will be there this time around.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. Great stuff from you, Andy. Sorry for how long this was. Some technical difficulties. Sorry to all the viewers out there. Some technical difficulties with the Wi-Fi here. I usually have highlights, and that's it. The Wi-Fi not allowing me to do so this time around. But Andy does great stuff for Rivals High School. He's pumping out stories on a daily, and he and I'm sure we'll see each other on the field at some point during these playoffs, and then also for the state championships as well. Thank you for joining me again, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely, anytime. Look forward to seeing you later down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to wrap it up for the South Florida Recruiting Report. Marcus Benjamin here. Make sure you find my articles on rivals.com. Definitely, tune in to the website as well as this podcast. Make sure you subscribe, share, like, and also follow me on Twitter X at Benjamin Rivals. Until the next episode.